what does a stink bomb, Israel, and India have in common? And how does the horrific nature of malodorous scents that add a spice to life cause a weapon of crowd control to fizzle? More coming up now. Hi there, I finally have a new shop with new designs. Link is in the description. It helps the channel, I'm sure you'll find something you'll like. Thanks in advance, and let's get going. As the current crisis in Iran and the extinction of their civilization seems to have hit the pause button, the other Middle Eastern crisis, that being Lebanon, has seen scant attention from the outside world. But thus far, 1,461 people have been killed, 4,430 have been injured, and approximately 1.2 million people have been displaced, and that accounts for around 22% of the country. Israel now occupies 14% of Lebanon's territory with no plans on ever returning the land. And most don't even know that this is happening, as all eyes have been trained on Israel along with the United States pummeling Iran for the last month. Now, while reflecting on Israel, of course known worldwide for its humanitarian disposition while dealing with its adversaries, I was recently reminded that besides the nation's highly honed arsenal of death, non-lethal forms of crowd control have been tested and used effectively by Israel, including what has become known as the skunk, on the Palestinian populace for years now, and especially prior to the liquidation of Gaza. The highly nasally penetrative stink bomb is a non-lethal but notoriously foul, sewage-smelling liquid that can be mixed with water and sprayed on protesters. The smell takes days to fade from the skin of demonstrators even after multiple showers, and Israel has sought to export the skunk to other nations to help with dispersing violent mobs and with crowd control. And while the sickening aroma has worked on its Palestinian subjects, there is one test group that the vile odor has not been able to cow. But first, from one of the worst smells known to mankind to one of the best kept secrets for staying healthy longer, let me show you something Joe Rogan and Mel Gibson were well ahead of the curve on. Stem cells are your body's natural repair crew traveling through your bloodstream to fix damaged areas. Watch this.
He's almost 100 years old. And from pretty bad shape, it was like bee stings. It was like he got a new lease of life. Like he got a big dose locally in the hip, which fixed all his inflammation and pain, and he started walking again. And his kidneys were good, and his heart, he had a prolapsed valves in there, and they healed. And his cognitive powers improved. His eyesight improved. Whoa. You know, and other stuff improved that he would hate me to talk about. But he had two nurses that reported to me. And it was like, holy mackerel. Wow. Using it as a towel rack, you know.
Well, Dan Bilzerian was telling me about intravenous stem cells. And so was Boss Rutan, you know, Boss Rutan, the former UFC heavyweight champion. Yeah. He went down and got some, he's had some pretty significant neck injuries and neck fusions. And he said he got intravenous stem cells. The way he described it is like, with his Dutch accent, like, it was like I had lightning coming out of my fingers. Like, wah!
Stem cell therapy does exist, but it's extremely expensive. But high Flavanol cocoa can naturally support your body's own stem cell activity. Studies have shown that its Flavanol triggers stem cells to leave the bone marrow and circulate in the blood. Listen to a top US cancer researcher explain it.
Is it true that cocoa activates stem cells? I'm a pancreatic cancer researcher, so let me explain the science behind it. Everybody always says that dark chocolate is very healthy for you. That is because dark chocolate or hot chocolate are made out of cocoa or cacao, and cocoa is super rich in flavanols, which is where all of the health benefits are coming from. When you consume flavanols, your body produces nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is not only critical for expanding your blood vessels, it also commands your body to release stem-like repair cells from your bone marrow, which repair the lining of your blood vessels when they become damaged. In one study, patients with coronary artery disease were given high flavanol cocoa, and the lining of their blood vessels improved by up to 47%, and there was a twofold increase in those repair cells floating around in their bloodstream. So consuming cocoa that is very rich in flavanols is amazing for your heart health, but many products and supplements are usually heavily processed, which removes a lot of flavanols. So if you would like a recommendation, I really recommend the Black Forest cocoa because it is super rich in flavanols. It is not chemically processed. It's vegan, non-GMO, gluten-free. It's made in America and third-party tested here, and it is super delicious and mixes really easily into any kind of liquid. Put it in your milk, coffee, even oatmeal.
I use it every day and the difference has been night and day. And right now, Black Forest Supplements is running their biggest sale of the year. Buy one, get one free for the next 48 hours. So if you want to try some high flavanol cocoa, click the link in the description or the pinned comment and grab the deal before it ends. It is remarkable, the Indian and their mighty ability to withstand any level of grotesque pungency based on their daily lived experiences within Indian settlements and urban areas. While I heard this story a few years back, I thought it was interesting enough to resurrect, given the intersection of current headlines being dominated by Israel, as well as the social media saturation of memes on India and Indians with regards to their toiletry habits. So just a few years back, India's paramilitary Central Reserve Police Force, the CRPF, rejected an Israeli stink bomb used for the purposes of crowd control on the grounds that it was not smelly enough. The CRPF wanted to acquire the non-fatal Israeli stink bomb, again called the Skunk, to deter stone-throwing protesters in India's northern Jammu and Kashmir state. And the reason for this was its earlier efforts at crowd control in the turbulent province included using shotguns, which fired special cartridges containing tiny iron balls and irregular-shaped metal shards, and these had blinded more than 100 people, leading to a public outcry. Now, prior to the utter destruction of Gaza, Israeli security forces had been using the skunk, and that being the malodorous substance dispersed through water cannons since at least 2008. Made from a mixture of baking powder, yeast, and other ingredients, the organic and non-toxic skunk emerges from the cannons as a yellow, watery mist. Its overpowering odor can linger for days on the human body. In clothes, the smell can remain for months, if not years, experts have said. And in a test run, the bomb liquid was sprayed on a captive crowd of CRPF personnel as well as civilian volunteers that participated, but to no avail. What the CRPF discovered, as reported by the Hindustan Times, is that the foul-smelling weapons employed by Israeli security forces on Palestinian protesters were wholly ineffective on their Indian counterparts, as they could tolerate its disgusting and vile malodorous scent without being so much as fazed by its putridness. It, and that being the stink bomb, was found to be ineffective during trials, as Indians probably have a high threshold of enduring stench, an unnamed officer from the CRPF told the Hindustan Times. The Indian tolerance for malodorous smells, it appears, is too great for the almighty skunk. The test was carried out in Delhi, a dense megapolis known well for its putrid stenches, which I can personally attest to having been there, and that a large portion of the country's population is used to living in foul-smelling environments, which are becoming worse with the pressure of population and breakdown of civic facilities. It's almost as if the skunk was designed in a pristine lab by people who have never had to navigate a crowded Indian street during the height of summer, where the air itself feels like a living, breathing entity made of equal parts exhaust, rotting fruit, and yesterday's curry. Delhi's winter smog already turns the city into a hazy soup of particulates and regret. Add in the open drains, urine, street food vendors frying in reused oil for hours, and the occasional whiff from overloaded garbage trucks, as well as the poo. There's always the poo. And you've got a baseline aroma that makes the skunk seem like a polite suggestion rather than a weapon. Even in quieter moments, the everyday Indian olfactory experience builds a kind of calloused resilience. auto rickshaws belching black smoke, public urinals that have not seen proper maintenance since the British left, and markets piled high with fish, spices, and fermenting waste. These aren't occasional inconveniences. They are the soundtrack of daily life in India. And no wonder the CRPF volunteers barely blinked. One officer reportedly joked that the test subjects could have drunk the stuff and then asked for seconds. The Israeli product, potent enough to send Palestinian protesters scattering and lingering for days, simply couldn't compete with the cumulative training Indian noses have received from birth. Think about it. Indian kids grow up playing cricket next to open sewers that bubble away like forgotten science experiments. Commuters squeeze into local trains where the collective perfume of sweat, damp clothes, and yesterday's curry permeate through wet pores, creating an atmosphere thick enough to slice. In many smaller towns and villages, the morning ritual still includes the unmistakable fragrance of cattle dung drying in the sun for fuel. These aren't rare assaults on the senses. They're the steady year-round conditioning that turns the average Indian nose into something closer to industrial-grade equipment. By the time adulthood hits, what might send a European or even a battle-hardened Israeli riot officer running for fresh air, well, it's just a Tuesday for your average Indian. The skunk's sewage-like punch probably registered as mildly nostalgic, reminiscent of that one clogged drain behind the neighborhood sweatshop. No panic, no retching, just a casual shrug and maybe a comment on how it could use a bit more intensity, perhaps a spicy hint of roadside garbage for authenticity. Now, of course, this isn't just about urban chaos. Rural India has its own rich bouquet, from cattle sheds and biomass plants to lingering effects of seasonal flooding that turns fields into temporary sewers. It all adds up to a national tolerance level that turns what might fell a SEAL team or even a hardened Green Beret unit into little more than background noise. The great Indian city of Mumbai. Well, Mumbai's odors have been likened to those of a wet, smelly diaper wrapped around one's head, with these stenches emanating from overflowing landfills, streets strewn in garbage, public toilets, and the poo. Always the poo. Adding to this problem is that India accounts for a significant share of global open defecation, though massive campaigns like the Schwarz Bharat have attempted to make progress in recent years. Moreover, this has prompted the Indian social media campaign led by UNICEF to help arrest the problem and the vile aromas created by said open defecation. Known as Take Poo to the Loo, commonly shortened to Poo to Loo, the campaign also produced an official music video. The official mascot of the campaign is the anti-hero Mr. Poo, an anthropomorphic lump of Indian excrement. Of course, the campaign has been the subject of jokes, or the butt of jokes, I should say, on social media, but also has turned to public anger. One of my favorite responses to the failed attempt at using the Israeli skunk was on Reddit by an Indian under the handle of Sar Sashi Thor. He said, quote, "It is a fact of no little provenance that the average Indian toddler can withstand, with a mere dollop of nasal goo sent forth to guard his still relatively tender olfactory passages, a stench that would knock the fiercest Viking warrior cold." Our great nation is indeed the high society of stink, where new and more pungent smells introduce themselves every year like debutantes at a ball and dance the fandango and foxtrot with each other, more familiar and jaded odors. Closed quote. So while the skunk may rule the streets of the West Bank whilst settlers clear out Christian villages with its fearsome reek, it turns out in the land of a billion noses forged in the crucible of everyday Indian pungency, even the mightiest stink bomb comes up short. India doesn't just tolerate this stench. It wears it like a badge of honor, chuckles at the attempt, and carries on with its fragrant business as usual. In the Grand Olfactory Olympics, the home team takes gold every single time. So, thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you liked the video, please leave it a thumbs up on your way out. Also, tell me what you think. Leave me your thoughts, opinions, or whatever you'd like to talk about in the comment section below. If you'd like to help the channel, it'd be very much appreciated. Ways of doing so are in the description. As well, remember to check out Black Forest Supplements Cocoa Flavanols. Great stuff to help you take control of your health before someone else does it for you. With that said, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.